Nice to see you on this beautiful spring March day here in Minnesota for the opening day of our spring practice. So thank you, everybody, for being here. We're really excited about the opportunity we have, propelling us from last year into this year. Really excited about this football team. So I'm sure you got a lot of questions. I don't really have a lot of opening statements. We'll talk about things as we go. I figured I'd leave you a lot of time to ask questions instead of me talk to you, which is a little bit different than what we're used to. So open up for questions.
Well, what does that new facility do for you in terms of your practice schedule, things you can do that you couldn't do, say, last year at this time?
Well, I don't know if it changes necessarily the time schedule of when we practice. In the spring, we're always practicing in the afternoons. In the fall, we're practicing in the morning. But what it does is like a day like today. You know, our indoor facility is a lot larger than our old facility used to be. So now we can keep everybody in there. We don't have to just send somebody outside and shovel off a piece of spring turf or field turf out there in the spring and have our O-line go outside or our D-line go outside. Everybody can be in the indoor now. But in terms of scheduling or in terms of times, our times have pretty much stayed the same. What it has done is it allowed us to be able to have it really all to ourselves. So if our players want to go in there at any specific time in the offseason, they want to stay later, they want to come earlier, they want to do things on the weekend on their own, they're more than welcome to do that because they have the facility and there's no one else using that.
Coach, last year you were trying to implement your fast-paced practice schedule. How soon or how long did it take to them to acclimate to that, and what sort of page did you hope to be on when you start this afternoon?
Well, I think they're still acclimating to that. It doesn't happen overnight, especially the way we practice, how we practice. You know, the biggest difference, I think, between year 1 and 2, from the experience I've had as being a head football coach, is year 1, all you're doing is learning. Everything is brand new, right? And year 2, now it's about doing the culture, right? It was learning the culture year 1 in everything, academically, athletically, socially, spiritually. You have new rules. You have new expectations. You have this new culture. You have these new Gopher talk words. You just have a new era. And it's hard for young people to be able to adapt to that. You know, 6 head coaches in 11 years, like we talked last year, that type of change for young people is very difficult. And so it's nice to be able to have that same type of culture in year 2, but now they can start working on mastering that, whether that's our schematics and offense, defense, special teams, whether that's our relationship building, even them building their own confidence in terms of the things they do and how they do it. So I've seen a drastic change in this team really over the course of, I think, the last 6-7 weeks, and very, very proud of their offseason work.
You mentioned that confidence. How does having to play some of those young guys last year that you probably weren't expecting to play, are you starting to see some of those benefits this offseason?
You know, I think so. I think it's always healthy to play some young guys. I think, you know, we redshirted a lot of players as well who are going to contribute this year. You know, there's a statistic, I think 77% of our roster, okay, this year, 77% of the roster is, 1, either an underclassman, right, or 2, has been in the program 2 years or less. So when you talk about how we've kind of almost changed that almost in 14, 15 months, that's an exceptional job by our coaching staff in terms of bringing in our culture, especially with the amount of how many people you can actually bring in, who's here, who's playing, how do you redshirt, how do you look at the depth. You know, year 2 is all about you finally get depth. You finally get pieces to work with. There's a natural attrition from year 1 to 2, whether that's seniors or whether that's people who just don't mix with the culture or don't mix vice versa, you know, player to coach, coach to player, want different opportunities, haven't played, think other opportunities for playing or somewhere else. So there's a lot of attrition after year 1, and then you bring in a lot of new players in the spring, and then you're going to have them join you in June as well. You know, but I'm really excited about the depth we have, very youthful depth, but it's depth. And there's going to be a lot of battles here coming in spring, which is going to be really exciting to watch.
How do you feel the early enrollees have taken to the program so far?
I tell you what, they've been tremendous. They really have. They have. It's neat to see them because it's the first 7-8 guys, right, that really bought the culture, right? When we first got here, we had about 2 weeks to recruit, to put that whole recruiting class together for 2017. You brought some that you knew, but then there might be 12 to 13 that you didn't know, 14 that you didn't know. And so when you get to the 2018 class, you recruited them for over 12 months. And then 8 of them get here. You're not convincing them that this is the culture for them. They bought that. And that's what's really exciting even about June. But the 7-8 guys that are here that came at different times but are here now, you can just see the difference. You know, a guy like Daniel Fa'alele, who you guys are going to get a chance to meet and get to know, or a Curtis Dunlap Jr., even see Vic Viramontes or Alex Riegelsberger. You start to see these guys really embed into our program, but they're already the culture. So I think it helps our whole team to connect too, to just have other people that are coming here that have bought that culture, have bought us, and then it just makes everybody stronger because the people coming in are already adapted to that culture. They already know those things because they went through the whole year of recruiting. And then I think that's even going to bring us even closer together once we hit June and, you know, those other 18 freshmen arrive.
What's your process of quarterback competition?
Great question. I figured it would take 4 questions to get to the quarterbacks. You know, it's really interesting. It's really exciting. I mean, we all might look at it as like, oh, no, we don't have a quarterback that's thrown a pass on the roster. Think about that for a second. There's not one quarterback we have. Seth Green has played a little, but he's never thrown a pass. There's not one, whoever plays for us in the fall, that will be their first pass ever. That's exciting to me. Because as we talked about year 0 now into year 2, which is, I think, year 1, that's where you kind of want to be. Who can you develop for a long haul? Not only that, there could be 2019s that come here, and then you have that real quarterback competition as you go forward into the future. But for what we have right now, you know, Tanner Morgan has had an exceptional offseason. He's got natural leadership ability, natural leadership skills. He's not the biggest guy or the strongest guy, but he's got that it factor. You know, he is a winner. He's a born winner. He took his high school from not being necessarily recognized that much to, you know, lots of runs in the state playoffs and being able to transform that. I think Seth Green's had a tremendous offseason. When you look at Seth Green, might be one of our better athletes on our team. Is he going to be a quarterback? We're going to find out in the spring. Seth and I have had very open talks about different things. You know, you might see him on some special teams. I don't know if he's maybe even the starter. He's so athletic. So he's one of those guys that we have to be able to find out what he truly is as we go forward. But like I said, he's right in the thick of the quarterback battle. He's had a tremendous offseason in the way he's worked. Very athletic. And I think he's one that, I'll be honest, when we first got here, I don't know how much Seth Green was really all in. And when you look at him now, he is an advocate of the culture. He's on the leadership council. He eats, breathes, sleeps the culture. And it's pretty nice to see that transition. It's refreshing to see that transition in a young man like him. Very, very proud of him. Look at Vic Viramontes. I haven't watched Vic throw a pass yet. So I have no idea. I mean, I look at his tape a lot. I've watched the way he works in winter conditioning. Very fast, very athletic, very quick. You know, he's thick. He's already played college football at the junior college level, but I'm excited to see what he can do. And then you look at Zach Annexstead, who turned down a lot of scholarship offers to be here as a preferred walk-on, and he's going to be right in the thick of things as well, who actually was at IMG and actually beat out a starter that they had who's got a scholarship to another Big Ten program. He actually beat him out during the year. So it's going to be fun. I mean, we're divvying up the reps, especially early. They're going to be pretty equal. And then as we go, whoever's performing at a higher level, we'll cut the reps according to them. You know, I think that's only fair. But everybody's going to have a shot. And I think that's what's exciting about the spring. Coach Shiraka's done a tremendous job and our whole offensive staff is, you know, as you go through the offseason, you learn what you do well, what you didn't do well, what are we going to do better, the places we went out and visited, what are we going to add to our offense, what's going to fit our quarterbacks better. But again, I don't know yet because when you get to, we haven't even, you know, today's practice, first time I'm ever going to see some of those guys throw a pass, let alone when we go play in the fall. That's the first pass any of us are ever going to watch that quarterback throw in their Gopher career.
What's the difference between Seth Green? You know, we heard a lot about him, of course, watched him in high school, but what's the difference between where he is and where he needs to be a Big Ten quarterback?
Well, first of all, athleticism, I don't think there's any question. He's an incredible athlete in terms of the natural part of the quarterback, in terms of what we look at, decisive decision-making, accuracy. Those are things he's got to continue to get better at. I'm not saying he's bad at those things. He just got to continue to be and show that he's better than the other ones at those things, which is what the spring competition's all about. Spring, in my opinion, if you haven't been the starter before, and there's not necessarily that quarterback battle. If there is, it puts you in prime position to win the job in the fall. But spring ball sets all that up, you know.
So is being a decision maker at that position?
Well, absolutely, especially, well, I think even last year was because it was a completely new system for everybody, right? And when you're just learning something, it's hard to master that and make decisive decisions. You're just worried about making the right decision. And then if you're not making the right decision, to be able to know where reads 3 and 4 are and what to do with the checkdowns and those things, that's harder to learn. So by year 2, we want to see that transition in the quarterbacks who have been in the program where everybody's decisive decision-making gets a lot better.
You have some quarterbacks, everyone kind of has a different skill set. You mentioned Vic being a big guy. Other guys have other arms. Do you see a situation where you want to go with one guy in the fall? Or could you have a balance of multiple quarterbacks?
No, but that's a great question, because last year, as I came into this program, I said, well, I usually don't like the 2-quarterback system. I like the 1 quarterback. That's what I'm used to. That's what I've been around. As a head coach, that's what I preferred. And we ended up playing 2 because I didn't feel like anybody necessarily beat the other one out, and I didn't feel like one gave us the best chance to win over the other one in terms of more than just 50-50. This year, if nobody does that, you could possibly see that again. But I'm not ruling that out. It's just too hard for me to understand. Every coach in America would probably like to say, I have 1 quarterback, that's the guy, that's the starter. That's what I would prefer. But especially when you don't have a quarterback on the roster who has thrown 1 pass at this level, every option's open.
I guess you're a lot better situation at O-line and wide receiver now than you were finishing up.
A lot better. We had 4 at times last year. This year we have 13 scholarship offensive linemen. So that is a credit to our training staff. That's a credit to our weight staff. That's a credit to our coaching staff for the recruiting we've done, being able to fill those gaps, fill those holes. We're a better offensive line today than we were at the end of the year, which I think that's what you want to continue to do at every position, just continue to grow and expand and be better. But when you look at what we're doing, you got Jared Weiler back, but then John Michael Schmitz, who was redshirted last year, who I think a lot of you might not know who he is, but he's going to emerge as one of the better offensive linemen here at the University of Minnesota as we continue to go forward. We added Nathan Bowe. You've got Bronson Dovich. When you look at the guard positions, Connor Olson, I think, had the best offseason of any big person, any bigs that we have, O-line, D-line. I think Connor Olson absolutely crushed the offseason. He had the best offseason of any big guy. And you put him, instead of center now, you can put him at left guard, which makes you better. And then on the other guard, we're going to take Blaze Andrews and plug him into that guard position. I think that, as of right now, can he be a swing guy and play tackle? Yes, but when you get through with the year, one of the things we talked about was, thank goodness we redshirted Blaze Andrews and we didn't get selfish. He'd be a sophomore now. Now he's a redshirt freshman. And you look at the 2019s, you look at the 7-18s we brought in, and you look at what young players we had from 17, and you start to look at the future of the O-line. It's starting to look like the vision that you had. And then you look at, guys like, we were talking about Bronson Dovich can be a swing guy. But then you look at the tackle position with Sam Schluter, right? Sam's had a phenomenal offseason. I think Sam's grown tremendously. If there's another guy who's grown just as much as Connor, it's probably Sam. You look at Donnell, came back from offseason surgery. He's already back. He's ready to go. And then once you hit June, you've got Jason Dixon coming in as a junior college transfer that can help us at the tackle position, Quinn Oslin. And then you start to get into some of the younger guys, right? Daniel Fa'alele, I don't know. He's a 413 pounds, 6'9.5" guard tackle. I don't know what he'll play. Being an inside zone team, I'd prefer him be a guard. That's a big guard, right? And a lot of double teams, but as you go, he could be one of the tackles. We'll find out because he's going to get a ton of reps in the spring. And then you look at Curtis Dunlap Jr., who's 380 pounds, and they have came in here and absolutely done everything we've demanded of them. They've kept their mouths shut. They've worked tremendously hard. And both of those young guys, 3 of them, Nathan Bowe, Curtis Dunlap Jr., and Daniel Fa'alele, they have earned the respect of their teammates. That's hard to do in a 2.5-month span from January and February into March. But I promise you, you ask anybody on our football team about those 3 guys, all they do is talk about how much they respect them. And, Daniel Fa'alele is a very, very big, strong man, and he proved that in our winter conditioning tug-of-wars. He didn't lose one, and it wasn't even close, guys. And, he looked like a big, giant bear, everybody jumping on top of him like at a kid's birthday party. That's just kind of what he is. He's a special, special individual, as well as a lot of players coming into our program or the guys developing in our program. Very proud of the progress we've made on the field and off the field.
Carter Coughlin going to stay at linebacker, or stay at defensive end and move to linebacker, and where are some of the other position changes?
Yeah, Andy, the way we look at where he plays, it's a glorified linebacker position. The R position for us, it really isn't this true defensive end, 270-pound defensive end. Now, Big O, Assezi on the other side, when we moved, Umler inside, but Assezi out there, Sam Renner, those are the big bodies at our 5 technique, our defensive end. When you look at the R position, that's the Tayon Devers, that's the Carter Coughlins of the world. So it's a glorified outside linebacker, and really that 3-4 outside backer that's really down on the line of scrimmage. They're going to have to cover. They're going to have to blitz. They're going to have to be able to stop the run. They've got to do it all. But, yes, Carter will stay at that position. We are going to play him at different positions in the spring. We're very thin at linebacker in the spring. Mariano's not here yet. Braylon Oliver's not here yet. Thomas Rush is here. Thomas Rush is a freshman that is going to play somehow, some way. He's had one of the best off seasons in 2 months that I've seen any freshman ever do at any position that's come early. He is going to be a future guy that I think everybody's really going to be excited about. He's big, tall, rangy, fast, quick, and an incredible person. So when you start to look at that, you start to look at, Thomas Barber and Blake Cashman had off-season surgery, so they are going to be through spring. They are going to work in group periods, walkthroughs, but they're not going to go through the full contact. So that's how a Thomas Rush, that's how a Juju can have a chance to be out there and play. And then you might even see Carter in some packages move to a Sam position, or maybe you'll see a Kamal move to the R position. We are going to have a lot more depth on defense and a lot more creativity on defense than we did last year. We have a lot more options. But those options possibly won't be here until June because a lot of those freshmen are going to have to help us do that. Some of them are already here to do that as well. So that's kind of where we're at with the linebacker position in terms of our depth. But I love the way, Thomas Barber, Blake Cashman have really led the linebackers. We're just a little bit thin right now in the spring until, the young guys get here.
How do things look in the secondary? What was the reason that Ken Handy-Holly left, and where do you guys stand at safety behind Winfield and Huff?
Yeah, the big thing in the secondary, same thing. We've got 4 freshmen coming in that are going to have to help us. We knew that going into this year we're going to be thin as it is, whether it was, Ken Handy-Holly or other people leaving the program. We knew we were going to be thin as it was. But when you look at it, Keandre Thomas absolutely dominated the offseason. And you talk about a guy, I'll be honest, probably wasn't in much, wasn't bought in, wasn't all in throughout maybe the whole year last year. And watch what he's done academically, and watch what he's done socially, and you watch what he's done athletically in terms of the way his body looks and the way he's changed. He's going to have a tremendous season. You can feel it. And he's got a long way to go, but you can see the night and day difference between that. Antonio Chenault, obviously at the corner position, we're going to cross-train Antonio Chenault as well as Antoine Winfield Jr. They'll be cross-trained. What does cross-train mean? Safety, corner, plus that money nickel player in the slot. You're going to see those guys move around a lot, and they have to be just based on our depth. The 4 freshmen coming in, C.J. Smith's going to have to help us. We know that C-time and T-time, Terrell Smith's going to have to help us. We've got Benny coming in, and then obviously Josh Awney. Those 4 are going to have to contribute this year in the secondary to be able to provide that depth. Chris Williamson was redshirted basically last year, had to sit out because he transferred from Florida. He's back. He's recovering from a little soft tissue injury, so might miss the first 2 days, but he'll be back the week after spring break. Justice Harris, you're talking about a guy, Justice Harris, who vertical jumped over 40 inches, and he is incredibly explosive. Played for us last year, probably shouldn't have, but we had to put him in there. But now he's got that experience where he can really help us. And then you look at Coney Durr. Did not play much last year, came off an ACL, took long to get back, and now he's finally healthy. And look at Ray Estes. So that's kind of the cornerback position. You look at Jacob Huff in the secondary, ton of experience, playmaker back there for us. Not going to be the fastest guy, blows up stopwatches, but he's just a football player that can really tackle well, cover well, make plays. Adam Beck's going to have to grow up. He's going to have to be able to help us before those 4 freshmen get there. And then obviously you have Swenson as well. But Winfield Jr. is kind of the guy we have to be able to move around. So, again, that's the linebacker secondary. We're a little bit thin until the reinforcements come, or until we get healthy in some positions. But again, we knew that kind of going into this year, that you can't fix every issue. As we talked last year, you can't fix it with just one big recruiting class. The 2019 class added to the 2018 class. That's when that movement starts happening, when you start to see depth, competitive depth, and experience start to set into your football team.
Winfield healthy, 100% ready to go?
Yeah, he's going to be healthy. One thing I'll talk about Antoine Winfield Jr. Antoine Winfield Jr. has to prove nothing to me. That he's a great football player. He doesn't have to prove that anymore. But again, just like anybody, I want to make sure he can get to Saturdays and he can perform on Saturdays, but he can continue to get better. One thing about him, I don't have any questions about him. Okay, he's not necessarily in a competition battle. All right. So for him, my job is, okay, well, let's see, let's do everything we can to keep you healthy in the spring, get you better, have you teach those younger guys, get them better. That's what the spring's about. There's some guys, Rodney Smith doesn't have to prove anything on offense. He doesn't prove anything. But there's some young guys we have to develop, and we have to be able to see them grow, that they might not get as many reps as last year where they had to prove to us they were exactly who they said they were. Now we know that.
Things in the spirit category when it comes to running back.
In the spirit category? Oh, I think you said spirit. I do want to make an announcement in front of everybody, which this is a little bit of nugget for everybody. Shannon Brooks will be out for the 2018 season. He had a lower leg injury in one of our last days of winter conditioning, non-contact injury. So he will be out. We will redshirt him. He'll be back for 2019, and that's unfortunate. Obviously, that's not the news everybody wants to hear. Not what I want to hear, but I'll tell you what, he has been incredibly positive about it. He sees it as some, as kind of a blessing in his own eyes of how he can continue to mature, how he can get better, and obviously be back in 2019. What that creates now is, like I said, Rodney Smith. We all know what Rodney Smith can do, but now all of a sudden, you've got guys like Mohamed Ibrahim, Dominic London. You've got to be able to see those freshmen, Femi Cole, but then you got to see the freshmen come in. You got to see, Bryce Williams. You got to see Nolan Edmonds. Guys like that are going to have to be in there to step up, which is perfect because we knew that one of those freshmen would have to contribute somehow, some way. Well, now they have to contribute somehow, some way, maybe even both of them, mixed with the spare. The pair and the spare are going to be kind of by committee until we find out who those guys are. But again, it's unfortunate, but it helps us in the long run. But I know that he's disappointed, but he's had an incredible attitude about the whole thing. So he becomes Coach Brooks for the 2018 season. And I think that's going to help him even be a better football player. The greatest form of mastery is to be able to teach it. So.
When did that happen? Are you concerned that even if he comes back in 19, is it one of those injuries that you don't know if he'll be?
No, not concerned at all. Nope, not concerned at all because, he's going to have surgery here very soon. And then once that happens, he's got the whole year. More than a year to, even come back for the fall, but that won't be the case. He'll be ready to go by next spring, by next winter, hopefully by the end of the season where we could be able to start working him into some things by the end of the year.
If the number of touches Rodney had last year, can he realistically take on even more?
Well, that's where that's where we have to be able to find another running back to be able to rise to the top. And that's been, Bryce Williams, Nolan Edmonds, the Mohamed Ibrahims, the Femi Coles. Dominic London's. Two of those guys are going to have to emerge. But that's because one door closes, that doesn't mean that's the only door. Now those other guys' opportunity, those doors have opened. So just like what we've had in anywhere I've been coaching, especially as a head coach, we sit there and look at during the season, hey, if that never happened, we would have never found out about this person. Or if that never happened, we wouldn't have found out about that person. So it happens all over the country. It's one of those things that's unfortunate. But again, I look at 19 and sit there and go, oof, I'm glad we're going to have him for 19,
What can you see out of Ty in year 2 under Matt Simon?
Well, I think for our whole football team, we've talked about becoming mature. When doing what we have to do becomes doing what we want to do. I think in year 1, you're just learning, okay, we have to do this. We have to do this. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why is he teaching it this way? Why do we have to run +3? Why do we have to do this, right? Why is this technique better than techniques I've learned in the past? Why are they different? Now, I think, again, he's a prime example of a guy that has to master the system. Not just the X's and O's, but the fundamentals and technique. Not only do that, he's got to be able to teach it. I want to see a lot more leadership out of Ty, right? He's got to be able to teach it to the Rashad Batemans who are coming in, right? To the Demetrius Douglas who's young. He's got to be able to teach those things to those people, the Chris Bells. Our wideout crew is going to be, Ty's going to be the elder statesman in that group. And he's going to be only a junior, and everybody else is going to be redshirt freshmen or true freshmen or maybe only just sophomores. So we're going to be really young there. I want to see the leadership of Ty continue to get better, which I've seen small parts of that get better. Leadership's not easy. If he's got natural leadership skills, but the way I want him to be able to lead this football team, we've got to continue to learn and continue to get better at. But I'm really impressed with the offseason he's had. His wrist feels a lot better, and he was out of a lot of the winter conditioning stuff because of his wrist at the end of the year. But feels great, and look forward to special things from him in the spring.
What's been the message to the other wide receivers? Because last year it seemed like it was Ty every pass play.
Yeah, the message was it was Ty. As you said, we need some others to step in. And that's going to be the fun competition. I think there's a lot of competition at the wide receiver position. Ty obviously is doing a great job, but when you look at Demetrius Douglas, who was really that freshman that was really turning it on early, and we actually medically redshirted him, so he'll come back basically as a redshirt freshman. And you look at Chris Bell, who I think was having maybe the best training camp out of any of the wideouts, and then he hurt his foot. And so he was out. He's back as a redshirt freshman. And then you look at Rashad Bateman, who none of you know yet, but he'll be here in the fall. And that's 3 freshmen that you're really counting on to play really big minutes for you. And then you look at a guy like Mark Williams has to be able to contribute. Harry Van Dyne, who was redshirted last year. You look at Phil Howard, who played last year but was in and out spotty with different injuries. And then I'll be honest with you, a guy like, Clay Geary and Brock Anixted have to be able to show that they can do some things. Same thing with Matt Morse. It's going to be a very interesting year at wideout because there's going to be five to six guys that I think really have the talent to play. It's just they're going to lack the game experience besides Ty. And I think that's what we got to become mature. We know we have to play 12 games. Well, we have to want to play 12 games and want to perform at this incredible level and not think we are just freshmen and label ourselves that way. That's going to have to be the theme of the whole year, which we talked about, a race to maturity. We have to race to becoming mature. We don't have time. We have to go to become this older group. But like I said, 72% of our team are underclassmen. Okay, so we have to race to become this older team when we're not, and that takes a lot of preparation on their end, away from us on their own.
One or two more.
You mentioned a couple of guys that weren't necessarily bought in or on board throughout the season. Now they are, and I'm sure there's others. What flipped the switch, or what changed with them?
I think time. Time changes, right? Time does two things to you. It either draws you closer to something or draws you farther away from something. That's what time does. And like I told our players when I first got here, I said, you didn't pick me, but I picked you, and this is going to be a relationship over time. I'm going to prove to you I'm exactly who I say I am. You have to prove to me you're exactly who we say you are, and then the relationship goes. So over time, I think that takes its course. And I think guys either find out, listen, I either fit or I don't. And we're very open and honest with our team. Some of you will fit, some of you won't. But I think we're starting to get to the point where everybody knows the guys that are here are all in. And that's really exciting because it takes 1, 2, 3, 11, 17 guys. It takes just one, but there's 17 guys pulling that team apart because they don't necessarily fit. That really destroys the whole team instead of helps it, right? I always talk about you have to be 100% bought in to win championships, 100. You can't have guys that are one guy on that team who just doesn't believe. That's the way I've been raised. That's the way I've seen it in championships on teams that I've been a part of. And that's special. We've got to get to that point, and we're getting closer to that point, especially with all the youth and especially recruiting as guys come in that are buying that program over the course of a year or 2 years. They're buying that. They know every bit of culture, every bit of what we do. They know change your best. They know necktie mentality. They know row the boat. They bought that. They're not being said, hey, this is our culture and you have to believe it. You want to believe it or you want to leave, right? It's not that anymore.
How much do you see O.J. Smith helping your defense as kind of a guy that can take on some double teams and open things up for some other guys?
That's a great question. One thing I'll say about our D-line, I'm really excited about these guys. Royal Silver, O.J. Smith, Nate Umler, we've moved down inside. Gary Moore's in his senior year. Noah Hickox, Malcolm Robinson, Elijah Teague, who's a freshman who will have to play and help us as well. But I love that 5 to 6 guys interiorly. I love them. Now, O.J. hasn't played for us yet. Right, I've watched O.J. in some drills, and I've watched him all through the year on scout team and different things like that. And you look at Royal, who absolutely crushed the weight room. We improved in every area in the weight room. I mean, absolutely dominated. And a lot of it had to do with our O-line and D-line getting that much stronger. Whether it's 45 pounds in the squat we improved, or whether it was 35 pounds in the clean or the 25 pounds in the bench. We are a stronger football team. We're a more developed football team than we've ever been. And we're a closer football team than we've ever been up to today. I'm not saying this is the closest we'll be. This is not even near where the closest we'll be. But guys like O.J., which I think who have been at other programs, bring validity to your program. A lot of players on our team, we're the only program they've seen. We're the only culture they've seen. Or it's the second culture they've seen. But when you bring in people from the outside at times, I like that because there's times they have a different perspective, and they will either do two things. They'll either tear your program apart because it's not like the other program they had, or they'll connect it. And all O.J.'s done is continue to connect it. And he came from a national championship program, right, in Alabama. So I loved having him here. He's developed into a tremendous leader. The players have really flocked to him, and he's connected so many people on this football team.
New assistant coaches, how's that transition been?
It's been great. I think change is very healthy. I really believe that. When we're talking about assistant coaches, I want my assistant coaches to move on, take better jobs in terms of whatever's at that in their eyes, move up to be coordinators, go do other things. There's guys that fit. There's guys that don't fit. Everybody deals with those things all over the country. But the 3 guys full-time that we brought in, Clay Patterson, really excited about him coaching our tight ends. I think one of the best young offensive minds in college football, averaged over 49 points a game when he was a head coach and coordinator at NEO over multiple years. has really kind of dove right in and just been tremendous for our tight ends. He's youthful, he's got a lot of energy, and he's really doing a tremendous job already of recruiting down in the Texas area. So we're excited about that. Jamal Adai came to us from University of Arizona. Mo leaving, that's a compliment. We are going to get this program to a point where it's going to be very difficult for assistant coaches to leave because of certain things. Now, that's going to be after you win, and you win multiple times down the road, okay, where you can sit there and say, this is a football powerhouse, right, in the recent modern-day football powerhouse, right, when you're winning championships and things like that. But until then, sometimes money gets in the way, and you can't afford that assistant coach anymore. They get to be able to go closer to home, or they get to move up to be a coordinator. They get to add a different title where they're going to have more responsibilities. I get that. I want my coaches to grow. I want them to develop. I want to be able to sit there and not be selfish, because the program's not changing. The assistants can move up and go. That's a compliment to the University of Minnesota, that we have the right people in place that other people want, and other people want our culture, and I get that. Mo did a great job for us in terms of recruiting, but Jamal Adai, I don't think we're going to skip a beat. He's going to recruit the Tampa area for us. Where he's originally from, where we recruit heavily. He's got a great experience with a defensive back, played in the National Football League as a defensive back, played at West Virginia, and he comes in and he's already attacked it. You can tell, I think our defensive backs maybe attach a little bit more to him. You can already see it. They can attach to him a little bit more. Which has been great. So he's going to be great for us. And then when you look at Marcus West coming in to being our pass rush specialist, put a lot of guys in the National Football League. And one of the reasons why I hired him, one, he's really young. He's really aggressive in recruiting. He's going to recruit the Atlanta area for us in Georgia. But he's one of those guys that understand college athletics. At Austin Peay, when you talk about Western Michigan's turnaround, Austin Peay might have been a greater story, okay? And he knows what that's like. We are doing something very similar like that here at the University of Minnesota. I want guys that have been part of turnarounds, rebuilds, cultural changes, whatever you want to call it, over 51 years of not having to win a championship, that understand that. And so he's one of those guys. His wife is the assistant basketball coach at North Carolina State. They've engulfed themselves in college athletics. And we're really excited to have him there as well. Joe Rossi moving to the D-line. Joe Rossi is our defensive line coach, right? And Marcus West is defensive line rush specialist, pass rush specialist. So that's how that'll work. We'll have two guys up front, which I really wanted to have. Very similar to like I've had in the past with two O-line type coaches. I've wanted to have that on the D-line because I think our performance on the D-line has to improve dramatically. It has to. And I think Joe Rossi is the guy to be able to get that done.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You got it, guys. Row the boat. Sky him out. Go Gophers. Thanks, everybody.